So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you everyone to join us for RBC Beyond Banking session and learn about how digital and technology can simplify and grow your business. Today's our agenda, we will have my RBC colleague, Mr. Sean Furness, RBC Director of a Global Solution, Ms. Rebecca Tang, RBC Vice President of a Commercial Financial Services, Mr. Vimpin Sharma, RBC Trade Financing Specialist, to share their knowledge and insights of how to grow the business through navigating the global markets and use the online digital platform to grow your business. And how are we supporting your business to thrive during the pandemic? So before we start, we would like to share some housekeeping items. Please use the chat box on your right-hand side of the screen if you have any question. And please send in any question anytime during the presentation, and we will address your question during the Q&A session at the end. If you would like to see the full screen of the presentation, please double-click the image. So our first speaker would be Mr. Sean Furness, RBC Director of a Global Solution. Sean will share with us how to leverage the online banking and an online platform to access an exclusive network of international partners and expanding in the global market. Sean, I pass over to you.
Thanks, Mandy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Furness. I just want to talk to you about a large initiative that RBC has taken on called Go Global, and a couple of things that we've done there to make things easier for our clients to go global. We did a little bit of research into the client journey so we can understand what kind of tools we can get out there, what kind of support we can get for clients. So we've built this and we've delivered it, and Vipin Sharma, the trade specialist with us on the call today, is great at doing that. I'd like to start off with one program that we have called the Trade Acceleration Program. This is for people who aren't in trading yet, but want to be. It's about 4 to 8 days of classes, and it's spread over a couple of months, so we don't impact your time too much. But we can teach you everything about trading and making it easy for you. We have a lot of great speakers in that. Our second part, when you start to get trading, a big piece that we have is our trade expansion lending program, and this is what we've built in a partnership with EDC, so that EDC can help back you, and we can lend to you a little bit easier, so we can make your trading easier that way. But what I really want to talk about today is RBC Global Connect. It was probably one of the bigger initiatives we did. We've built a website of 2 pieces, Trade Resources and Trade Club. I'll talk a little bit about the Trade Club right now, and then I'm going to get into a quick demonstration of Trade Resources. What the Trade Club is, it's an alliance that we've taken with a number of other banks around the world. We're at 14 banks right now all together, and what we've done is we've agreed with each other that we'll vet our clients, and we'll introduce our vetted clients to those vetted clients of other banks, and we'll match them to properly suited counterparts in there, so that those clients can begin discussing and get to the point where they want to negotiate some deals, and then RBC would be very glad to help you get to those deals and get those deals accomplished so you can build your business. One thing that is very important about the Trade Club, though, is that it is for RBC clients only right now, and it's an invite-only group, but Vipin can help you out with that, or the trade specialist can help you out with getting to be a big part of the Trade Club. But I can talk to you about RBC Global Connect right now, the Trade Resources. This is available to anyone. It's available to RBC clients. It's available to non-RBC clients. What I'll do is I'm just going to share my screen quick so I can do a quick run through of how easy it is to find people to do business with around the world. Okay, so on the screen right now, this is not the landing page itself. I've already signed in so that I can take that little bit away, but we're just going to click on Trade Resources. Oh, go? Now, there's a little bit here. I'll just go over these menus very quick because I'm going to show you them in more detail in just a second. But this Explore New Markets, it's a quick way where you can go into this menu here, find countries to do business with. Then if you go into Engage in Business, you can find people to do business with. And those people are both people looking for your product, looking to buy your product, or looking to sell you a product. There's also professional associations, business directories on here that you can go through to help, and those people will help you find businesses or help you do that business. There's also tender alerts here, and you can go in there and you can sign on, and you can create it so that if somebody puts a tender out there on the site, it will alert you and say, hey, there's some business here you might want to take a look at. And lastly, there's the manager trade operations here, which it helps you out with everything you need to do to get your product from here to there, or to get your product into the country. Right from those shipping documents, it has the shipping documents for that country and your country there, and it will actually help you complete it. The controls and the calculators and the customs information you need as well. But what I want to do is just show you these three fields up here really quick. We'll go through, we'll find a product that we can sell. What we'll do is we'll sell some natural graphite in powder or flakes, so we can define it and our search will happen. Well, we want to sell, so I export to, and it's best countries for my product or service. I click search. It'll take a second. Okay, and then up comes my search. Now I chose natural graphite on purpose because I didn't think it would be wanted in a whole lot of countries, but these are the top 6 countries that'll be looking for your product if you're into natural graphite right now. So those are the top 6, but then I can list it out and I can show a whole lot more. I get the list of all the countries that are actually looking for your product. And just keep in mind that this is for any product to any country in the world right now. So because Japan is the top one up here right now, they're in a little bit of a decline. South Korea is starting to import a little bit more, but we'll click on Japan. It's now going to compile everything Japan about the graphite. And then it's now going to tell me how much Japan imports for natural graphite from Canada, how much they do. They're on a decline right now. Maybe they're looking to do more business with Canada. The countries that are actually supplying Japan with natural graphite, even more information, 4 market reports that I can go and read. 47 clients within Japan right now that are looking to buy natural graphites. 30 international trade shows I can go visit. Business directories and associations that will help me do business with natural graphite in Japan. And 7 online marketplaces that I can go visit. And again, some business alerts that I can set up so I can be alerted to any business which I would be particularly interested in Japan right now. And then lastly, excuse me, information about duties and customs and such, more classification numbers, and again, how I get my shipment from here to there, the shipping documents I'll need, and any calculators that can help me do the business, and then get my business there so I can grow my business as quick as I can. Okay. So I invite anyone to, easiest way to get here right now is to go to Google or any search engine that you do use and search for RBC Global Connect. It'll take you to here. You can create an ID and start searching around RBC Global Connect, looking for better business or more business. And if you're an RBC client, I hope you take advantage of that opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sean. This is every time I look at the RBC Global Connect, I'm just so excited about the possibility. And again, just reiterate, this is something you can do already today by just going into the site and register. And obviously, the trading club is more exclusive for the RBC client to pre-qualify, but definitely take a look to expand your supplier or customer base around the globe, which become even more important these days after or during the pandemic. So now next I'm going to talk about another great RBC initiative, Go Digital, and share a bit more like how digital technology can help simplify or improve your business, as well as what are we doing to help business owners and entrepreneurs. Obviously, we are experiencing a digital technology shift that is really changing how you as business owners can relate to your employee, as well as your customer, as well as how you conduct your business. This is being driven by a lot of disruptive technologies, such as the Internet of Things, the big data, cloud computing, and AI. In this environment, we want to be able to provide you a full spectrum of services that go beyond your traditional financial need in order to address these concerns. And definitely, COVID-19 has merely accelerated all of these changes across all industry, and it become more important now than ever to go digital. And that's why we're here today to talk about Go Digital. Now, as we talk about disruptive technology, here are a few that 6 technology we talk about most, and I think most people are quite familiar with. And you know, I think it's important to really understand how these technologies is making a difference for your businesses. Let me share a few examples. The Internet of Things, or we call it IoT. As an example, as a trucking company, keeping the company assets maintained is very important to ensure the equipment is functioning properly, as well as ensuring the driver's safety. And it's always good to have the IoT-enabled vehicle so you can track any minor issues before it become more serious. And so you can plan your scheduled downtime for maintenance. Let's talk about smart connected network. One example is in the manufacturing industry, where people, processes, and supply chain are all connected to give end-to-end visibility of control. And that can really help manufacturing owners to know what exactly happening on the floor of the business and can share those information with their employees, customers, and suppliers. Big data. A lot of our customers are looking at, how they can use big data to examine the large and varied data set and provide valuable insights about the loyalty and retention of their customer, so they can uncover some of the unique buying behaviors to increase overall purchase. Blockchain, interesting example I've seen recently is using technology to track where the fish was caught, so that the customer know whether the fish is caught in a sustainable way, and more importantly, when it was caught. And fishermen or fish manufacturers using those technology were able to attain a better brand or pricing power. Now, how can Go Digital platform or program advance your business? So we have a wide spectrum working with our partners to help various business owners on a number of these objectives. Improve the efficiency, improve customer satisfaction, product quality, and at the same time, lowering the operating costs, modernize the workplace, which become more important today, and access to new innovation. Today, our Go Digital program support the following sectors with partners like Microsoft and others. And these are the sectors including healthcare, retail, manufacturing, wholesale, and logistics. Now, this become more important, modernizing the workplace, so that we can reimagine how to adapt your business in the new normal. Technology can help your business benefiting from the following way: making sure all your employees can work remotely from anywhere, and enhancing collaboration as we work from home or virtually by enhancing the experience of the meetings and phone calls that your employee have to conduct. And very important, security. Protect your information and ensuring you are well defensible against any cyber attack. And lastly, cloud solutions, so that can allow the right employee to access the right time, right information at real time. Now, this is the key about Go Digital if we boil down into something more tangible. As we see in the pandemic, no matter what industry you're in, e-commerce or digital presence become ever so more important. So LBC Moneris partnered with Bookmark to help business owners to launch an e-commerce solution end-to-end with payment solution. So there is tools for business owner to set up a digital presence website and have the commerce and payment components very easily. And now we're running a promotion till December to have a preferential rate on Moneris, as well as for the Bookmark in terms of your website setup, as well as half of the price off on some of the delivery to the local market. And on the other hand, the digital readiness tool, as we mentioned, we partner with Microsoft and others to launch this Go Digital program. But it's a lot of different solutions based on the technology you want to pursue, as well as the stage of the digital maturity you are at, as well as your objective. So here's the digital readiness tool to really help you to quickly assess within 2 minutes, answering a few questions where you are at in terms of digital maturity along the spectrum of employees, product, customer, and operation. And after reviewing these two with a few questions, you will get your score. And after that, you can consider whether you want to receive a complimentary discovery conversation with a digital expert at Microsoft. Now, there are way more details in the LBC Beyond Banking site. And today, we just talk about two of the most important initiatives, Go Global and Go Digital. And there are more on that Beyond Banking website, including various LBC ventures to support business owners and entrepreneurs to start, expand, and grow their business. And I know that October is the small business month, and at LBC, we always are very keen in helping business owner, again, not just on financing, not just on deposit, but really all around how you start your business, how you expand globally, how you keep your employee, as well as how you modernize your workplace and your operation so that you can win more customer, retain your employee, and grow your business. Now, with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mandy to see if we have any questions from the audience. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Sean, for your high level of this great presentation of Go Digital and Go Global program. So here is some question is from the audience. And one of the questions from the audience they asked about what is the enrollment process for RBC Trade Club?
Okay, let me try to answer that, Mandy, for you. So as Sean mentioned during his presentation as well, so RBC Global Connect essentially has two major parts. One is called Trade Resources and the other one is called Trade Club. So Trade Resources is open to everyone. Anyone can just go onto the website, find RBC Global Connect website and sign up for it. They just have to sign up using an email address and they'll be able to go in. And they can explore the platform, they can explore all the countries, all the suppliers, manufacturers, or buyers in that particular country as well. When it comes to Trade Club, that capability is currently restricted only to RBC clients because that's a pact between 14 international banks that we have to vet our clients before they go on to Trade Club. So that's the process about it. If any one of our RBC clients wants to get on the Trade Club, they can always reach out to me and I'll help them get on the platform.
Thank you. Thank you, Nguyen. So the next question from the audience is, they would like to know more about the detail of the e-commerce solution, what RBC offer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mandy. While waiting for the question, I'm also typing a couple of links that people may find it helpful, including the first one is the Global Connect link that Vipin and Sean has mentioned. The second link is the Beyond Banking. So on that website, it has more details about the e-commerce service or offering right now. As I mentioned, it's a partner between Moneris and Bookmark. So you will have the tools to build your website as well as integrate with the Moneris payment solution. and we are running a promotion till December. So if you set up a Moneris as a Moneris merchant, as well as have a RBC deposit account, you will be able to tap into this offer. Again, the whole integrated solution will make setting up a digital presence very easily. And I think that's all our business owner want to make sure you have your first priority to have a digital presence.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. And the last question from the audience, they would like to know, is there any other suggestion could RBC would recommend on the business if they would like to expanding internationally during the pandemic?
Thanks, Mandy, and that's a very relevant question considering the times we are in. We have seen large-scale disruption because of COVID. A lot of industries were badly hit, and there were a multitude of reasons for that, right? So there were countries under lockdown. There were companies which were financially struggling for different reasons. So how RBC can support such businesses or any company which is trying to do international trade business during these times is, it's a twofold answer, I would say. One is essentially using the digital resources that Sean and Rebecca mentioned. So RBC Global Connect is a fantastic resource for finding new suppliers, new buyers. And the good thing about, let's say a client gets onto Trade Club and finds new suppliers or buyers for their business. The good thing about that platform is they are already vetted businesses. So the client already knows that the counterparty they are dealing with, that's a trusted client of one of those 14 international banks. So they get a lot more comfort in dealing with such companies when they just start dealing with a new company. The second aspect of how RBC can help the businesses is through different trade products. So a lot of people who were historically not using letters of credit or standby letters of credit have started using them. And it's a great time to actually start using those products because they essentially protect the businesses against counterparty risk. They protect against payment risk, and they also protect against country risk. So there are different products which will be suited to different clients based on their requirements. But yes, we offer all of them, and we'll be happy to help any of our clients or potential clients. Anybody who wants to have a discussion can definitely reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help them.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for Linton. So we all, I believe today this is a great session, and all the audience, including myself, and then we learned so much about the RBC Beyond Banking session of the Go Digital and Go Global program. And so we might not be able to address all your questions today, but if you have any follow-up question and would like to know more about the detail of the program, please reach out to ACCE or contact me directly.
Can I add that, Mandy? I also encourage people to go to the expo. We do have a really good YouTube video just to show how powerful the Global Connect site or initiative is. And also I put a couple of links and we'll share it afterwards if possible as well. And some of us will stay here to the networking so we can chat more with some of the business owners if you have further questions.
That's great. Thanks again for everyone your interest in RBC Beyond Banking session today. And supply chain disruption is the biggest challenge during the pandemic. And the RBC Trade Club is the best tool to help business owner to diversify the market and expanding globally in the post-COVID world. So I hope everyone enjoyed the session today, and everyone enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandra Tam, and I'm the Senior Business Development Officer of Markham's Department of Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship. So welcome to our session entitled Tech Undivided, the Path to Thriving in Canada's Tech Ecosystem. So I want to thank Venture Lab for partnering with the City of Markham to deliver today's session. So located in Markham's Convergence Center and also partly funded by the City of Markham, Venture Lab is an integral part of Markham's thriving innovation ecosystem. And also a special thank you to Karen and also Yvonne for joining us. And I can't wait to hear about your successes, challenges, and more importantly, how you get where you are here today. So the discussion is going to be moderated by Harman Gurwal, Director of Partnership Operations, Venture Lab. So welcome, Harman, and thank you. And so before I turn it over to Harman, so let me just share a few slides about Markham. So I hope you can all see the slides.
Not right now.
There we are.
There.
Okay, so can you see the
Yes,
slides?
now we can.
Yeah.
Can you see the slides? Okay, great, excellent. Okay, so for those, because this is a national event, for those who are not familiar with Markham, Markham is north of the city of Toronto and in the center of the Greater Toronto area. So where is very accessible through all the highways. And so just want to provide a snapshot about Markham's very vibrant business community. So Markham's the top destination for global companies in the whole of the York region. More than 45% of the foreign direct investments actually are in Markham. And so it's also located in the largest tech hub. And we are home to more than 650 headquarters. So, so this map actually shows why Markham why York region is Canada's second largest tech hub, and with over 4,300 ICT companies. As you can see from this map, many of these companies actually are located in the city of Markham, side of the screen. So, for example, IBM, GM, AMD, Huawei, GE, etc., etc. And so Markham also has the highest number of ICT employers per 1,000 residents among all the other cities, as you can see in the graph. And we are also the leader in innovation. We have a great innovation ecosystem here. Venture Lab is one of them, and BDC, the Markham Board of Trade, Ontario Sector, Ontario Center of Excellence, etc., which is all located in the Markham Convergence Center. But we also work with the different levels of governments, the 3 levels of governments, academia, Seneca, York University, etc., and also the private sector. So we have a very vibrant and also diversified economy. So we are Canada's high-tech capital. So IBM is located in Markham. IBM is also our largest employer. But we also have a very strong financial and insurance sector as well. So all these names, you can see many of them, they are ready, I'm sure you can recognize them. And we are also the largest foreign direct investments that came into Markham, of course, is from the US, but the next largest ones were from China and also from Japan and also from Europe. And we're also Canada's most diverse community. So our current population is around 355,000, and 70% actually are foreign born. And almost 40% of the population is Chinese. And the next largest population is South Asians. So many companies, why all these companies, big corporations, IBM, Huawei, AMD, etc., they come to Markham is because we offer a very talented and also diverse workforce. And as we all know, York University is building its campus here in Markham, and we'll be welcoming 4,000 students to Markham soon. So we work with many strategic partners, including the Association of Chinese Canadian Entrepreneurs, which is the host of today's event. But we work with a very diverse group of strategic partners as well, as you can see all the names here. And so we are here to support you, the Markham's Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship Department. So we work with corporations and also small businesses as well. And Markham Small Business Center focuses on supporting new startups. So Christina Kaka-Flickers is our Acting Director of Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship Department. And so here are my contacts. You're most welcome to contact me. And so now let me turn it over to Harman, Director of Partnership.
Thank you, Sandra. That was a great presentation. And we're really happy to be longstanding partners with the City of Markham. So what I'll do really quickly is I'll give a brief overview, very short and to the point, of what Venture Lab is. I'll talk a little bit about Tech Undivided, and then I'll segue into introducing our esteemed panelists today, Karen and Yvonne. So very quickly, for anyone who doesn't know, Venture Lab is a leading technology hub located in Markham in the York region. And as Sandra mentioned, the York region is Canada's second largest tech cluster. In 2013, Markham was actually Canada's most diverse city as well. Through its programs focused on capital, talent, tech, and customers, Venture Lab has supported over 2,000 tech entrepreneurs and companies, including 100 companies that have raised over 115 million and created close to 4,000 jobs. Venture Lab's Innovation Hub is a 50,000 square foot facility that is home to over 45 tech companies and innovation partners, and that employ more than 300 people. The sole mission of Venture Lab is to grow globally competitive tech titans that build to scale in Canada. So amongst Venture Lab's many signature programs, one is Tech Undivided. Tech Undivided is focused on reducing unconscious bias, increasing representation, and access to capital for later stage female tech founders. In February, before COVID happened, we had announced our inaugural cohort, which included Retainovai, which is Yvonne is the co-founder, and Karen from Boss Insights. As I'm sure everybody has experienced, the months after that were a roller coaster. And so some of the things that I think we want to learn about from Yvonne and Karen today are just how they were able to ensure the growth of their business, how did they pivot, and how did the ecosystem kind of help, and how did the program help. So very quickly, I'm going to introduce Yvonne. So you smash the glass ceiling with perseverance, and you surround yourself with people who support you. Yvonne worked for her dad in a family-run auto body business before spending 7 years in mining and 6 years in tech. She's the first woman in her family to earn a BA from UBC before getting her global executive MBA from IE Business School. She now runs her HR tech company, Retainovai, to help organizations improve workplace culture. And then we have Karen from Boss Insights. So Karen is a former commercial banker and second-time founder. She's the CEO of Boss Insights, offering easy access to the most robust business data platform globally. Awarded in 2020, this year, as the Women in Payments Unicorn Challenge and 2019 Executive Leader in Lending, Karen has 15 plus years experience in the financial services industry as a banker, advisor, and mentor. Boss Insights serves business leaders all over globally and was featured in publications like Forbes, American Bankers Association, Bank Innovation, and Financial Brand. Karen envisions bridging the need gap in the lending industry, empowering the economic engine of the future, which includes small businesses and commercial businesses. So thank you guys so much for coming in and being a part of this conversation. My first question that I wanted to ask was, so as I mentioned already, Tech Undivided is focused on reducing unconscious bias, increasing representation, and access to capital for women entrepreneurs in tech. Could you tell us a little bit about your companies and then talk about how Tech Undivided was helpful for you in growing your business? So I'll start with Yvonne because she's on the top of my screen.
Okay, sure. So we've built Retainovai to help organizations make feedback normal in the workplace. So giving and receiving feedback sounds scary for many employees and leaders, and it doesn't have to. The more you do it, it becomes routine and more comfortable, everyone becomes. And, at the end of it, like everyone needs feedback to improve, and change happens through one conversation at a time. Harvey, you just mentioned like one of the things that Tech Undivided stands for is, gender equality and, eliminating those unconscious bias, right? So most recently is the conversations everyone needs to have in the workplace, at home, wherever, right? And you can imagine without conversations, change isn't going to happen, even though we might find it uncomfortable to talk about it. But, if we start with one conversation at a time, change will eventually happen. And this is what we strive for at Retainovai, is to drive change through conversations.
Awesome. Thank you. Karen?
First, I can't even talk about Boss Insights before talking about Yvonne's background and what you're doing. I need it at our firm. So please find a startup approach to this. It doesn't matter how many times you say to somebody, please give us feedback so we can improve. It is just not a natural thing to do, and there's always a power differential. But while on the surface that power differential is with the people on top, actually, speaking as somebody who's trying to hire right now, it is so important to get the right talent. I find that the keys to the kingdom are with the people I'm trying to hire. And there's just, it's, you know, you're putting your best foot forward. What I want to know is, who are you? What makes you interested? What, you know, we're in a startup environment. Things are moving really fast. I want to make sure I can trust you. So what you're doing is incredible.
Thank you, Karen.
I thought we should talk about that instead of Boss Insights for a second. But what we're doing is we're offering business data on demand. And I know everyone's heard enough about data, and it is not exciting like going for a trip to Baskin Robbins. But CB Insights and The Economist rocked the financial services industry this week by sending out an infographic that everyone with any newsletter got. And it said that 10 years ago, banks had 96% of the financial services industry. A year ago, in the 80s, this year in the 70s. So in 1 year, they dropped another 10 points. It's crazy. Why? Because fintechs are doing it in a more seamless, user-focused way. And we are the easy button so that banks and credit unions and traditional lenders and even fintechs can have instant access to information so they can just accelerate things from months to minutes. So that's what we're up to. I'm a former customer banker, so I hated doing it myself when I was at the bank. That's why we do it.
I saw that article, Karen. I thought that was super, super fascinating.
Oh, God. Thank you.
So one of the things that, just going off of what your last answers were in terms of what's been going on as well in terms of COVID in recent news. So COVID-19 has changed the world, obviously. We've heard this in terms of the main stage conversations. We've heard this in the panel discussions today. And we've also heard this just anywhere in your local living rooms. And it's forced businesses to close. It's resulted in massive unemployment. And everybody's kind of rethinking what their game plan is. So how are you growing your business during these challenging times, and what keeps you going despite all this uncertainty? Yvonne, back to you.
I think, you know, yes, it's been challenging, but at the same time, if you're on the entrepreneurship track, it's almost like when someone throws like a challenge at you, you're like, well, I'm going to figure out a solution to fix it, right? And the most important thing is always listen to the needs of your customers, because they're constantly changing, right? With or without the pandemic. And of course, with the pandemic, the change is a little bit more drastic now with everyone, for example, working remotely. So how do you keep the feedback cycle going when you have employees in the office, you have employees working from home? So, you know, there needs to be some form of a process / technology to bridge those communications, right? So for us, like, you know, it's more iterating based on the changing needs of your customers, because they are the ones that has been keeping us going, right? They've been, you know, basically the backbone of your company. They've been there to support you through the entire times. And then the other thing that came up was, okay, well, the other challenge now is how do you create a pandemic-proof business, right? Like, that is super challenging and super fun. I mean, like, it's challenging, but it's fun at the same time too, right? So I did say, like, always iterate based on the needs and be able to be really agile, right?
Awesome, thank you.
I think I'm going to jump on that in terms of the customer. But the thing is, when you're in a B2B fintech business, the customer is a complex thing. Last week, there was a panel of bank CEOs that I was presenting after, and I'm about to present to 40 community bankers. And what did I hear from the CEOs in the panel before me? We're not actually bankers. We are running tech firms that happen to sell banking products. I didn't hear that the week before. The week before, I'd heard from a bunch of banks that they're not bankers. They're offering banking as a service to other banks. They want to sell their banking charter to fintechs to offer products. The industry is changing so quickly that I cannot remember another year where we have learned so much. You just take it all in and you offer it back in a SaaS type of way, something streamlined. What we released in 2020 was a way to adopt our technology in under 1 minute. That's because we stopped asking our clients to code just so that they could pay us money. that didn't seem right anymore, but that was right in 2019. So, and then the other thing I'll say is that in March, before there was government funding, before we had the incredible, you know, when we were just starting Tech Undivided, what I saw was a little bit of what I saw when I was entering banking, commercial banking in 2010, in the last big crisis that we had, that there was going to be carnage for small and medium businesses. And I think what's keeping us all going, everyone on this panel, everyone here today, everyone at the Markham Center, is that we want to create an environment that is sustainable for businesses. Businesses are creating the jobs, and with that, we have comfort and assurance. So I know that's been what's responsible for our endless 18-hour days. I think I can say the same for everyone here. You're all working tirelessly too. So that's.
Yeah, one of the things I definitely think that everyone's feeling for the first time, since all of this is happening for the first time, is just this burnout from being on the screen all the time. And it's like, you feel that after switching to working from home, you'd get more time, but it's like the more time that you got just meant that there's more time to do work now, as opposed to spending it in between traffic or commuting or whatever everybody's world looked like before.
Yeah.
Right?
I can confirm that with just the surveys that we've been doing with our clients, right, about burnt out and the hours and, you know, the ability to separate or set boundary, you know, between work and home, right? It's been really challenging for many.
Yeah, no, I believe it. That's for sure. So my last question, before we open up the Q&A, if there are any questions. So as I mentioned before, in 2013, the city of Markham was the most diverse city in Canada, and today is at the center of the second largest tech cluster. How has being a part of Venture Lab and the city of Markham's tech ecosystem been helpful for you and your business? And then we'll go to Yvonne.
And I mean, you said it, the keyword diversity, right? And I think that's so important, especially when you are exploring a new industry vertical. You know, you can either go in blind, do your own research, or you can reach out to, you know, subject matter experts, mentor within, and that's what, you know, Tech Undivided has really helped us. Like right now, we're in the process of venturing into the healthcare space, right? We can, again, go in blind, or we're able to talk to industry, you know, experts who's already in the field, who can guide us through the process, helps us navigate through, you know, that very complex jungle that we're walking in. So I think right now, whenever I try to do something, and obviously, you know, all the ladies from the same cohort of Tech Undivided, it's just been really helpful to have someone to go to instead of, you know, being in silo and trying to build a business by yourself, but to have trusted advisor that can tell you, like, okay, if you're going to navigate into the healthcare space, here are the steps and here are the things you must consider in the short term and in the long term, and what defines successes, right?
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
I mean, what has Venture Lab not done? It was in 2018 that I first started chatting with Venture Lab, and they helped me with one of our earliest grant applications. And entrepreneurs in Canada are very lucky, almost spoiled, with how much access we have to capital to help us hire young talent to go and explore new markets. And if we were left to our own devices to apply, and I know this for a fact because we did apply before Venture Lab's help, it would not have been successful. And if you can imagine that there are hundreds of thousands of people starting companies, how on earth is a grant funder supposed to evaluate that? So that's how it started for us. Now we're at the point where we're looking at investment capital, where we're hiring new people, and every time I can pick up the phone, or honestly the computer and email, and say, this is our challenge, and really Venture Lab is there. You would think that there would be some politeness or whatnot, or you wouldn't be able, in terms of, let's go back to the feedback loop, but Harman has been really insistent that we provide clear communication about what businesses need and what will support and how we can help the second cohort for Tech Undivided. When we did a media campaign for all the incredible founders, I was there saying, women have come so far, it's actually the best time. The door is open to us. Whether we can walk through is the question. And what I've seen over the past 6 months has me realizing that there are some systemic biases, regardless of where the diversity is coming from. Right now, we're talking about gender, but it could be other areas, and it's going to be there. So you have to understand that and where the unconscious bias comes from, and then speak to that. That training, that expertise, that came from Venture Lab mentors. And I'll give one specific example. If you know when you're selling to someone that they're going to ask you how you're not going to lose instead of asking you why you're going to win, you can engineer the conversation in the direction you'd like it to go. There's no information like that of advisors who see hundreds of companies to point you in the right direction. So we're really grateful for that.
Awesome. My heart is so warm right now, especially since it's been like raining outside, you know? So thank you so much. So I think we do have one question from Tina. So anyone can jump in, you both can jump in. What do you think, in your opinion, is the latest trend if you were to put your investment lens on in the tech field right now? Like, what have you felt like you've been keeping an eye on, or what have you been noticing that if you were an investor, this is something that I would kind of, I guess, pin and be like, I see this being, I don't know, I see this growing in terms of its impact. And if I was an investor, this is something I'd probably jump in on or think about jumping in on soon. I know it's a different hat to wear, but you'll be in this position, I'm sure, sooner or later.
I wish I could ask Tina a question. Do you mean tech in general, or do you mean fintech, or do you mean HR? Is there a specific category you're asking about? Because tech is fairly broad.
Big.
So, I mean, I can only answer in my area of expertise, but yeah.
Same here. I can only answer. I think, you know, like I said, tech in general is just a booming, you know, industry right now, right? So it's like there's opportunities in so many different pockets of tech, right? And of course, you have to do a lot of due diligence to figure out what is the right investment for you and the risk that, you know, the short/long-term risk that you're willing to take, right? And, you know, of course, like I will have my biases when it comes to HR tech, right? Because, you know, digitization is such a big thing in HR, right? And just, you know, the human capital space. So, and I'm sure like finance, again, you know, that's like a very big booming sectors as well. So
from the HR perspective, I heard of a business, female founded business. So and it's HR as a service. Yeah. It's 20% of a salary that we have to pay when we're trying to recruit somebody. I would welcome. We are literally hiring right now. It's impossible. Yeah. If anyone out there has an HR as a service business, please come and get me. So I think that's going to be hot. Taking what has not been as a service and making it more accessible to people who can't afford large fees will be everything. In terms of tech, non-self-serving insurtech is hot. I see VC firms simply focusing on insurance. And then more self-serving in my category, which is data. There have been a lot of investments lately, and they are focused in a very small part of the space. But we've had $10 million in the space, $3 million. These are US numbers, not Canadian. So it's hot. And what, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, somebody said data is the new oil. We keep saying it's not data. Every big company is sitting on so much data that they can't use. It's insights.
Correct. Yeah, it's insights.
So, Yvonne, I'm giving you a high five over the screen.
I know. Here, high five back.
So that would be
awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So I think that's it in terms of the Q&A. Tina says thank you for your insights. And what I'll do is I'll say one final thank you to Yvonne and Karen for taking time out of their very busy schedules on making sure they're growing their companies, for just kind of spending time with all the attendees in today's discussion. So I'll hand it over to you, Sandra, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. So I'll echo Hamin's comments. Thank you so much for both to Yvonne and also to Karen. And so this is such a great, powerful discussion. I would just wish that we had a little bit more time. So, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I hope you'll find it useful as well, because it's been such a privilege for us to be able to hear from these two very smart tech leaders. And your speeches have been really, really inspiring. And I also love that can-do attitude. So Markham is where technology and diversity converge, and there's a lot of support on your path to entrepreneurship. So I welcome everyone to Markham's tech ecosystem and also our business. So Markham's Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship Department, including the Small Business Center Lab, are here to support you every step of the way. So Tech Undivided is certainly one of the very, very useful programs. So again, thank you, Karen, and also Yvonne, for your insightful and practical advice. And also thank you for Harmon for your excellent moderation.
Thanks, sir.
So thank you, everyone, again. So, and enjoy the rest of the forum.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you again. Bye.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the HKETO session. My name is Christopher Chen. I am the head of Invest HK as Presence for Canada, head of investment promotion, which it basically is the government agency responsible for foreign direct investment and high-level trade between Canada and HKSAR. I realize I only have 25 minutes for this session. And so I'd like to present a number of ground rules. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and I will answer them at the end of the presentation. And if you would like to magnify the presentation that I will be giving, feel free to click on it twice. I will be presenting my email at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions about global expansion in the HKSAR, moving to Asia, increasing your company presence in Asia Pacific, please don't hesitate to send me an email. With that, I will start presenting. So the reason for Hong Kong, leveraging its bench strengths. This will be an overview as to the economic opportunities presented to any companies deciding to expand to Asia Pacific using Hong Kong as a hub. There will be a bit of historical context, and there will be a specific industry sector case study. But again, if you have any questions about the specifics, please feel free to send me an email. A little bit of a background. I understand that because this is the ACCA, there's a lot of knowledge about Hong Kong, but perhaps this will serve more as a reminder to all of you. Hong Kong is one of the world's top capital markets. It's one of the world's best financial systems. We consider the third global capital of finance and investment. It is an easy place to do business. Fact is, it only takes about 1.5 days to do business. It has one of the world's best tax regimes, roughly averaging about 14% in terms of corporate tax, inclusive of exemptions. It is ruled by law. That has not changed. It will not change, and it was ruled with clean governance. What most of you may not know is that it is now part of a larger ecosystem called the Greater Bay Area, which has a population of about 70 million people and a GDP of $1.5 trillion. That's on par with a number of countries such as Indonesia, Netherlands, and Turkey. It is an economic super region centering around Hong Kong and the cities of the Pearl River Delta, such as Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Macau. Basically, it is a super economic region on par with, say, Silicon Valley, United States, the Ruhr Valley of Germany, the corridor between Hamilton, Toronto, Montreal. When one is considering entering into the Hong Kong market, it is best to consider that it's not just entering Hong Kong, but in totality, the Greater Bay Area itself. Suffice to say that Hong Kong has built itself over a long period as a financial center. It is still a major financial center, again, after New York and London, but it's reached several benchmarks that started in history that began during the 1960s and 1970s. It is the leading capital market. It is the world's first IPO fundraising center. It is the world's largest offshore renminbi business hub. What that means is that 70% of renminbi that flows from mainland China to the outside world is funneled through Hong Kong. That has led to a significant renminbi centralization, as well as investment expertise not found anywhere else in the world. It is one of the world's premier international banking centers, the first for international banking in Asia, and home to 70% of the world's largest banks. It is the premier asset and wealth management center of Asia. It is Asia's second largest in terms of total assets under management. That depends if you're looking at Japan as outside of Asia. Otherwise, it's China and then Hong Kong. In terms of the insurance market, it has 162 authorized insurers, and it is the third largest international bond market in Asia. Now, this sets the context for Hong Kong's background as a financial capital. However, going into the 21st century, the government does not wish to solely rely upon financial services as the entirety of the economy. Using that rich background in financial service, the Hong Kong government wishes to leverage that expertise and that capitalization into a new environment of opportunity, with some strategic pillars fixated on fintech, life sciences, and asset management. One of the things that needs to be brought up at this time is that there is an Innovation and Technology Commission, a section of the Hong Kong government solely devoted to driving innovation and technology. That drive has created the Innovation and Technology Fund, which is a US $13 billion public pot, a venture capital pot dedicated towards investing in companies going into Hong Kong and engaging in innovation and technology. This public pot is dispersed by a number of government agencies and departments because it is a government. Government is typically not known for making investments. So basically, specific departments meant for the disbursement of the fund have been assigned this task. InvestHK, the department I work for, is one of those departments. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the SFC, the Securities and Futures Commission, the Insurance Authority, and technology campuses such as Cyberport and HKSTP, each has a remit of dispersing portions of the Innovation Technology Fund to companies within their purview. Over the last 6 years, there have been over 3,500 startups. This is a little bit out of date. Needless to say, I won't be reading every single sector that has received part of this pot, but there's been investments done in fintech, design, ICT, biotech, robotics, artificial intelligence. This, as I stated, over the last 6 years, there's been 3,500 startups, or about an increase of about 200%. And that has led to about 12,500 to 13,000 people being employed by startups. This is important to InvestHK because as a government agency, it is our role to increase the economy, to drive the economy. And people being hired is actually a key indicator of whether or not these initiatives are working. Because of the location of Hong Kong in the Greater Bay Area, there's been a number of unicorns that have benefited from the access to capitalization and talent. The number of unicorns in the Greater Bay Area has reached 28, a number of 28. And a unicorn is any company that has a valuation of US $1 billion. The reason for this is that if you remember, I was talking about how 70% of renminbi flows from China to the outside world through Hong Kong. That has led to a great concentration of investment management expertise, as well as capitalization. Having all of that in one place has led to a number of companies benefiting from Hong Kong's location. One more note about Hong Kong's capitalization is that there's about $3.5 trillion of AUM in Hong Kong, and there's about 2,000 licensed asset managers in Hong Kong. Again, this lends itself to Hong Kong's role as an investment center. This investment center is actually being driven by the amount of high net worth individuals. And Hong Kong, Asia Pacific, is actually driving the net worth around the world. And you can see over a period of about 8 years, Asia has increased leaps and bounds in terms of that specific asset class. One specific industry that I wanted to delve into is actually the HK fintech ecosystem. For those of you that don't know, fintech is the merger of financial services and technology. It is the processes, the systems, the resources where financial services becomes more efficient, becomes smarter, and becomes and increases its ROI in terms of B2B and B2C outreach. There are about 600 fintech companies in Hong Kong. Bearing in mind, about 15 years ago, there were effectively none. There are 53% of these fintech companies sees Hong Kong as a base for a global expansion. 76% of fintech companies focus on the B2B market. And most importantly, 37% of fintech founders actually come from overseas. These are not necessarily homegrown companies. These are companies that had the kernel of an idea in countries such as Canada, United States, or Israel, or France, and came to Hong Kong looking for capitalization, looking for incubation, looking for acceleration, knowing that Hong Kong has that access to capitalization and wanted to spread their wings. Right now, in terms of financial services opportunities, specifically within asset management, banking, digital payment, insurance, and SMEs, the numbers are growing. It is true that 2020 saw a stalling of growth due to the protest movement as well as COVID-19. However, what that actually meant is that there is a lot of capitalization left untapped. A lot of companies could not go to Hong Kong. A lot of communications broke down. The financial resources are still there, and basically they are still waiting for new investment opportunities and portfolios. I wanted to show in depth how potential funding for Canadian companies going to Hong Kong could look like. If you look at a company, and I cite fintech here, this could actually easily apply to a life science company. Throughout the life cycle of a company, from company setup to overseas expansion, the Hong Kong government offers funding through every stage. At the stage of company setup, there would be a waiver of business registration fees as well as tax exemptions. When it comes to the R&D stage, there are a number of subsidies and bourses available through the different government agencies, depending upon what the company actually does. If it's R&D in life sciences or R&D in ICT, there are different funding avenues dedicated to specific industry sectors. In hiring, there's actually subsidies so as the first number of employees will actually be covered by the government. When it comes to business development and fundraising, there are additional subsidies. One of the most interesting for fundraising, which doesn't actually show here, is that if a company has attracted capital from a world-renowned venture capitalist such as Sequoia, the Hong Kong government will match it dollar for dollar. The last one, when it comes to further expansion, overseas expansion, is quite an interesting one. If a company has successfully established itself in Hong Kong, in other words, it's set up, it's hired people, there's cash flow, and it's made this decision to expand further into Asia Pacific, such as into China or Southeast Asia or South Asia, there's an overseas expansion fund. That expansion plan would be funded by the Hong Kong government. Now, this is only the public sector. It doesn't cover the private sector. The private sector is actually quite different. The private sector I break down into venture capital investment and IPO fundraising. Again, I use fintech as a benchmark, whereas for over a period of 5 years, this number is slightly out of date, there's been about US $2 billion invested by venture capitalist companies into fintech companies. The last section of funding, which is public, is IPO fundraising. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange is the #1 bourse in the world in terms of funds raised. Basically, 2019 was a watershed year where another number of companies, benchmarked by the Alibaba secondary listing, used the HKEX for a secondary listing. In other words, they were already publicly listed in their own countries, whether it was China or England or France or the United States, but basically want to do a secondary listing on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. As in terms of exit strategy, we're always encouraging companies to make it to this stage, of course. But first and foremost, the first task is to make the commitment to set up an operation in Hong Kong. So why Hong Kong? The first explanation, according to this study by KPMG, was access to a larger market. If you remember, the Greater Bay Area has a total population of about 70 million people and 1.5 trillion GDP. Many companies, when they go into Hong Kong, treat Hong Kong as basically a foot in the door. Similar to other city-states or jurisdictions, the population of one city is relatively small when you think about the ability to go into other countries. And Hong Kong is the gateway to China. It is the only real gateway to China that actually also maintains the rule of law, the common law. And it's also the #1 trade dispute resolution center of Asia Pacific. A lot of companies set up in Hong Kong and then expand into other parts of Asia and find that in those other jurisdictions, a local business partner or a customer breached the contract or breached the agreement. The companies that have set up in Hong Kong have the luxury of flying back into Hong Kong and taking this case to court, having the judge rule in their favor, and the other jurisdictions will abide by the court ruling. So who are we in terms of InvestHK? As stated, we are a government agency of the Hong Kong SAR government. We are an agency that likes to say we connect the dots and plug you into our ecosystem. Any company that chooses to be grandfathered into Hong Kong, in other words, agrees to make the commitment to setting up an operation in Hong Kong, finds itself having its doors opened to every aspect of the Hong Kong economy. It is true that almost any company can actually help you do business registration or facilitate introductions to a corporate secretary, a lawyer, or accountant. Anyone can do that. But to get into Hong Kong is one thing. To do well and compete and have your business grow in Hong Kong is quite another. And we see it as our role, we see it as our value-added services, that we introduce you to potential partners, potential clients, potential customers, so that you do well. It's not in our business to have any company go into Hong Kong and not do well. So for any company that we choose to grandfather, we will introduce you to investors, whether it's venture capitalists, angel investors, private equity. We'll introduce you to corporates. We will introduce you to banks. We'll introduce you to our contacts at HSBC, to Standard Chartered, to Citibank, to JP Morgan, to RBC. We'll introduce you to trade associations, depending upon the type of company that you may be, whether you are in innovation technology or fintech or in food, such as fisheries, whether you're into furniture export. We will introduce you to the appropriate trade associations and business networks. If you are a startup, we will introduce you to accelerators, incubators, innovation labs. If your intent is on hiring, if you're looking for hiring, for example, a customer analytics and computer science double major from one of the local universities. We'll patch you in with them. We will, of course, introduce you to other members of Hong Kong Incorporated, such as Cyberport, Science Park, ASTRI, which is the Applied Sciences department. Of course, as part of the Hong Kong government, we will facilitate linkages with immigration and revenue. If you're going in and your business requires a particular license, we will introduce you to a regulator, such as if you're an insurance company or a securities company or a blockchain company that actually touches the money, or a payments company. We will introduce you to the Canadian Trade Commissioner. We always like to believe that whenever a company wants to expand to another country, you actually do so under the remit of two governments. Two governments are better than one. And in this case, you will go in under the auspices of the Canadian government and the Hong Kong government. And of course, we will introduce you to professional firms, such as the lawyers, the management consultant, the accounting firms, the corporate secretary, the nitty-gritty in order to get your business registration and company up and running. Just as a little factoid, there are about 200 Canadian companies registered in Hong Kong. InvestHK put 180 of them there. And we have put large companies such as CPPIB, PSP, we put Manulife Bank into Hong Kong. We've also worked on companies that were already there prior to the creation of InvestHK, such as RBC and Scotiabank. We have put the Quebec government into Hong Kong. We've put a number of universities, such as UBC, Western Ontario, Waterloo. We have also worked on a number of small companies. We've worked on a number of startups. Basically, it comes down to what does your company do and the scale of growth or expansion. We work with large and small across all sectors of the economy. So basically, that's about it in terms of my presentation. I'd like to address some of the questions that I've received over chat. And I apologize that I may not be able to see all their faces. I like to look at this one question. People worried about the Hong Kong's free flow of capital and China's encouraging to have Shenzhen and Shanghai take over HK's position. What's the value of Hong Kong versus Shenzhen and Shanghai or Macau? That is the rule of law and a different tax jurisdiction over those other countries. It is fair to say that there are a number of competitive jurisdictions. Of course, we're all competing for foreign direct investment. Hong Kong does have a number of benefits over other jurisdictions. Now, of course, it also depends on what your intentions are. But Hong Kong does enjoy the rule of law. In terms of commercial law, that is based on the Commonwealth system. It has a trade dispute resolution mechanism second to none. A number of companies who want to set up in Asia wish to have their intellectual property and their assets, their financial assets, protected when they expand to the rest of Asia. And Hong Kong's commercial law and common law system protects them. If a company chooses to set up in mainland China, that is their prerogative. However, there are some regulatory issues that need to be taken into account, such as the need for a joint venture structure. Hong Kong doesn't require that. If you are in, say, fintech and you're a blockchain company, the blockchain law created by China about 2 years ago requires a license. Hong Kong does not require a license in that regard. In terms of taxation, that's actually one of the most appealing aspects of Hong Kong, in that it's capped at around, I'm going to say around because there's always exemptions, at around between 15 to 18%. That applies to both corporate tax as well as personal tax. In China or in other jurisdictions, it's relatively higher. The transparency of working with Hong Kong in terms of tax and setup makes it an appealing center of investment. In terms of access to capitalization, even if InvestHK didn't make the introductions, and we will, that's one of the points of the presentation, even if InvestHK did not make the introductions to venture capital networks, to asset managers, to angel investors, the access to capitalization in Hong Kong is extremely easy. Hong Kong is one of the easiest places in the world to network. And in terms of capitalization, whether it's from the private sector or the public sector, is relatively straightforward. In terms of links, let me type in one of them. Start Me Up HK is one of the subdivisions of InvestHK. Let me actually, I apologize, I have to do this live. But there is a resource on the Start Me Up website that actually should be very interesting to a lot of you. Oh, sorry, I got the URL wrong. I'd like to walk you through this website. So I'm going to do a screen share. If we can find it. This is the startmeup.hk website. Start Me Up is a division of InvestHK. InvestHK actually has a number of subdivisions specifically devoted to key verticals. Startups are one of those key verticals, as is fintech. There's a tab here called Startup Resources. And the Startup Resources, as you can see, actually divides the funding avenues into specific sectors, such as incubation and acceleration programs, angels and venture capitalists, government funding schemes and support, shared facilities, and the shared facilities, for example, actually have their own funding capabilities, networks, investment networks, and other useful links. I want to show you government funding schemes and support. And I am not going to go through all of this. The reason being is that this is a little too comprehensive for me to cover during this time. But basically, needless to say that there is a lot of industry-specific subsidies and funds. And I recommend that anybody who has interest in expanding to Hong Kong and wants to know what potential funding opportunities there may be, go through, please go through this site and do some reading. Also, please send me an email if you're looking for a specific, sectorial funding avenue. Just let me know, and let me try to walk you through it. So I don't know how much time I have left. I've actually, I think I'm going to try to answer just one more question. I just realized I'm out of time. Hi, Chris. I have a question regarding data security issues versus recent issues. Is there any concerns where IT companies require offering cloud data solutions in Hong Kong? No. One of the core aspects that you have to remember is that Hong Kong is a separate jurisdiction from China. There are regulations towards those types of companies that apply in China that do not apply to Hong Kong. They are actually kept separate from each other. In terms of specific cloud data services, the jurisdictions for Hong Kong are kept entirely separate from China. I like to cite that the new blockchain law that China put into being over the last 2 years only applies to blockchain companies operating in China. They do not apply to companies operating in Hong Kong. Hong Kong operates under a different regulatory guideline. So I think I'm out of time. I'd like to thank everybody for taking part. I apologize for probably rambling on here and there. I will leave my email in the chat. So if anybody has any specific questions, please give me a shout. And I apologize, this is the first time we've ever done this type of discussion room. So it's all a learning curve for everybody. Oh, sorry, spelled my email address wrong. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
I think we're good to go. So welcome, everybody. My name is Michael Nguyen. I work at Google here in Canada. Thank you very much to the ACCE for inviting us to participate in today's session. Very excited to have Chris and Elena join us. Before we dive into today's topic, really just wanted to give a little bit of background as to who we are and why we're here. We are members of the AGN, which is the Asian Googler Network here in the Toronto office for Google Canada. And our mission is to support, promote, and celebrate the Asian community at Google Canada. Specifically, in the past year, we've established a community outreach team whose specific mission is to drive relevant impact for Asian businesses through leveraging Google tools and resources. We've established a partnership now with the ACCE. This is our third event together. The first two were focused on tools and resources that can help grow your business. But given today's themes, we thought it'd be appropriate and a good opportunity to speak to Chris and Alana, who are two leaders within the AGN team, and discuss how COVID has impacted their lives in 2020, as well as some tips to manage the challenges that it represents. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. I'm not sure if everybody else is catching that. Hopefully, I think the audio is coming in okay. But with that in mind, I'd like to introduce you guys to Elena Chan, head of our customer marketing and brand and reputation team here in Google Canada. Her team's mission is to help Canadian businesses succeed online. As well, we've got Chris Chan, who's the head of industry retail here at Google as well. As the head of retail, he leads a team whose goal is to drive digital transformation at Fortune 500 retailers through deepened partnerships with Google. So welcome everybody to—
We're not related.
What's that?
And we're not related, although we're
common last name. Before we dive into it, please feel free, guys, to use the chat function on the right-hand side. We can try to get to the questions within the session. We've also earmarked about 5 minutes at the end if we can't get to your questions within the discussion, and we can save that for the end. Okay, so we'll dive right in. Really, obviously, with so much going on in the world today, lots of challenges, lots of disruption, I think even more important as leaders to exemplify certain examples and certain behaviors to continue to lead your teams. Really, Chris, I'll start with you. How has the pandemic affected your work and life balance so far this year?
Yeah, I don't think my story is going to be far too different from all of us here. But I'll break it down sort of work and life. From a work perspective, I think we're all trying to manage through chaos and uncertainty, and we just have to embrace that and lean into it. As mentioned, I work specifically with retailers. It's been a difficult time for some. It's been actually a really good time for others. Those who are digitally enabled, those who are essential retailers and helping Canadians during this time have done well. So on some fronts, my work has been challenged. On other fronts, this has really been a time to accelerate on our big bets, and I'm sure we can talk about that a little bit later. So the work front has brought that duality to it, which has been really interesting. The other big portion of being a leader, as most of us can identify, is supporting our team. And that is really mushroomed during COVID. And as a leader, we're expected to have a perspective at all times. And I think in times of uncertainty, even more so, as our people look to us for some sort of comfort and guidance and level setting. So that pressure to have a point of view at all times has been tough. But I think, as we'll talk a little bit later on, vulnerability is a big thing, and not knowing all the answers and being upfront with that is also a part of, I think, the leadership and how I'm trying to show up at work. From a life perspective, like many of you, I'm trying to juggle my family. I try to escape into my office space. I'm lucky to have a little nook here that I can shut the door and get some work done. And there's some online schooling with my kids. I have to pop out every once in a while to take care of and try to keep things going. I have found, from a personal standpoint, I've had to pick up new habits and routines to create that disconnect, as all of life is happening in the home. I'm a late bloomer and late comer to meditation and breathing. I wasn't a believer before, and I've started to adopt a little bit of that to start my day every day, and that's actually been really helpful. So like Headspace, I use that a couple of minutes every day to just kind of get the day going and clear my head. Also creating that activity after I shut down the laptop. The last email at around 5:15, boom, got to close it before when the weather was good. It's a bike ride with the kids or something to just kind of snap me back and disconnect. So hopefully it gives a flavor of like what's happening at work and what's happening in the home. And I'm sure we'll go deeper later.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Elena, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think, COVID obviously threw a wrench into all of our plans, personal and professional. And I think, like Chris was saying, it was like a great opportunity for some business and disaster for others. And we had to pivot our business model as well. My team does a lot of in-person events. So you can imagine how our plan was no longer a good one. And so I think leading a team through this very dynamic, ambiguous, uncertain time, you need to flex a lot of different skills. And I think the one that was most valuable for me was just dialing up the empathy, right? And so I think we don't realize that we're asking people to do a lot. Like, our jobs are demanding. We're asking them to pivot on a dime and then handle all of their own home situations, whether it's kids, parents, someone sick. And I think that very active listening and looking for cues on your team and making a safe space for them to be able to share those things with you. I think that was really important. I think Chris mentioned my mantra right now is do less with less, which is really about radical prioritization. I think we always have, been asked to do more with less, but it's actually draw the hard line as a leader. That's your job for your team to radically prioritize. And then I think there's yourself, right? So there has to be that separation of mental and physical space. I saw a lot of people struggle with that at the beginning when we thought we'd be at home for a week, a month. I was working on a windowsill for almost 3 weeks, and then I had all this back pain, and it was just that wasn't sustainable. And so I think that loss of routine was actually a big loss for people. And so it took a lot of time to recompensate for that. So I think there was just this need to accept chaos, be okay with there's waves of productivity and waves of nothingness, and that's okay. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. But I think it was just, giving everyone a lot of room to navigate what's happening in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that do less with less. I think it really helps reframe how we see things. And if anything, I think that's certainly everybody can identify with as well. The next question, what are some of the greatest challenges you've seen as a leader? And do you have any tips or insights to manage and overcome these challenges? Alana, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. I read a really interesting article a couple weeks ago talking about the concept of surge capacity. And that really hit home for me. And maybe it might resonate with some of you who've heard of it. It's basically how we draw on this survival instinct in the short term when we encounter very stressful situations. So it happens in natural disasters. You kind of gear up and step up to the situation and you make a plan of attack. And it's actually very common with high performers who actually have a lot of pride in being able to do that. But now we're kind of entering this stage of like a chronic state where we've been operating at this high level of adrenaline for a long time, and the plans we're making, we're used to solving problems, getting things done, and the routines, they're just not possible right now. So it's actually a thing that a lot of people struggle with, but particularly high performers. And so I think it's important to remember to recharge and remind your team to recharge. Like, I've been actually giving very specific instructions. Like, just today I had, in the next 6 weeks, take 2 days off and a full week off, because this person hadn't taken a vacation since January. And so being aggressively helpful there, I think, I think an overinvestment in ourselves now will have outsized returns later, particularly as we're going into the winter. If you're feeling crappy already, you're not going to get better come December, right? So you need to start at a high point now. And so investing in your personal well-being is important. I think also Google really invests a lot in our managers. We actually have this research study done in 2008, and they refreshed it in 2016 and found it was still the same. They identified 8 attributes to make a great manager. And it's public, you can look at it. It's rework.withgoogle.com. And it talks about 8 attributes that are effective for team management. We actually, as managers, get evaluated on these 8 criteria every year. And so I'll just do a quick recap of them, but you can definitely check them online. So half of them are about how you develop your team, and half of them are about how you get work done. And so under developing your team, there's making an inclusive environment, empowering and not micromanaging, supporting a career and discussing performance on a regular basis, being a good coach to help them improve, and very good communication, which means listening and also transparency. Under getting things done is having a very clear vision for the team, being productive and results-oriented, being collaborative, making clear and strong decisions, and then having the technical skills and expertise to advise the team. So like knowing how to do your job, I guess. But those would be the 8 criteria that we actively get evaluated on, but is incorporated into a lot of the Google leadership styles.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, I just sent out the link in the chat box. So for anybody interested, you feel free to click on that and go a little bit deeper on that topic. But certainly is a focus internally here at Google, and arming our managers with the resources to prosper through even something like this. Chris, how about yourself? Any tips or insights that you've come up with?
Yeah, I would principally echo everything Alana said. So much of what we need to do as leaders and what we've tried to do is manage the human experience of this time. And so in the spirit of trying to be very practical, like I kind of bucket, there are 3 human needs that we've observed in the team that I lead. One is, very primal. People need to feel connected and feel safe. The second is people need to be able to focus and also want to see progress. And then the third is people want answers in times of uncertainty. So maybe something practical for each of these. In terms of connection and feeling safe, what we've tried to do is build in shorter but more frequent touches with our people. So maybe in the past, you may have had a one-to-one every 2 weeks. That's increased to every week, but maybe it's shorter, just a 15-minute check-in. At peak COVID, when we were all trying to make sense of what was going on, we actually created a team check-in every single day. No agenda, just to be with each other and support one another. So that's one, like people need to feel connected and feel safe. So are you creating the space and the time, sometimes with no agenda, other than for us to feed off each other, because all the perks of being in the office together and the energy we thrive have been taken away. So that's first. Second, people need focus and a way to see progress. So we'll talk a little bit later about prioritization, but really front and center and repetition on here are the 1 or 2 metrics we're going to drive progress on, and consistently in every team touch point, in every team email, showing the micro steps and the inches that we're improving helps people feel like they're making progress in a time when they don't get a lot of other external feedback. And then the third of people wanting answers, as I said, as leaders, we kind of have to give them everything as transparently as possible. If people ask me a question about when we're going to return to office, I will tell them everything that I know that the company's given me. There's very little dancing or trying to position. People want the truth, and if we don't know something, we can get together and try to solve it together. So I think that transparency and co-building solutions when the leaders don't know has been something that we've tried to employ.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think Alana and Chris have both alluded to certain kind of proactive steps you can take as a leader to kind of make it easier for people to collaborate and get that energy from a team remotely. This one for Chris, maybe. What are some specific tools right from Google that we've taken to help team members work from home?
Sure. I'll talk through tools, organization, and then budget. So from a tools perspective, we were relatively set up well to begin with at Google because we do everything collaboratively in the cloud. Moving to a remote work from home environment wasn't day or night. So I know maybe some of your businesses, it was quite a shock, but for us, it was a smoother transition. We're very much a video conference culture where we've got the video on and we can see each other and collaborate. We're very comfortable with that. And it was nice to see Google, which, we're amongst friends here. We could say maybe we were behind Zoom on a lot of product features, but we quickly saw our product teams make strides to making our video chat solutions more interactive, more fun. So from a tool standpoint, we were already pretty good and we just only got better. From an organization standpoint, very much about resetting expectations as leaders on the business. So we were very deliberate about understanding each individual's personal situation at home and in their lives. If they were taking care of children, elderly folks, we had to recalibrate entire work plans. And we couldn't penalize people for the situation that they were in. So from an organization standpoint and from a people, operations and performance planning standpoint, we would encourage all of you to really understand each individual's needs and setting them up for success so they can be their best on their time to deliver against reset expectations. We actually put in place something called carer's leave, where we allow people to take the time they need to disconnect, to take care of children, to take care of others in their lives. And again, it's the manager's job to reset the scope of the work so that the individual can deliver. So that's the organization front. And then lastly, from a budgeting, it's very tactical, but we actually gave money to each of to all Googlers to actually create a work from home environment. So you could spend money on a keyboard, the monitor, the chair that's going to meet your needs. And it was, again, between the individual and the manager up to a certain budget cap, but we encouraged every individual to work with their manager to make sure that there was a physical space that the Googler was happy with to be productive at home.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think certainly different solutions for different people. Everybody's individual circumstance, I'm sure, is quite different. So the flexibility there, I think, is really key in figuring out what works best for you and your teams. Alana, what about in terms of priorities? Have you changed or reframed your priorities and how you define success, both like for yourself as well as your team?
Yeah, definitely. I think right when the pandemic hit, we had our budgets cut like everybody else. And so we had to make some hard choices. And we thought, what is the lens we're going to evaluate what a good choice is? And it was actually, is this helpful for our customers right now? Right. And so I think that meant like, okay, some longer term things, not helpful right now. Our 1,000-person summit where we wanted to teach people about like how to implement advertising tools, like not helpful right now. You know what's more helpful? Okay, getting a retail expert in talking about what the future of retail could look like. Getting an expert in from China to say, here's what we've seen in Wuhan and in Shanghai, which is 6 to 8 weeks ahead of us. Here's what we've experienced. Here's what you need to know, right? So how do we pivot to do what's helpful? And I think the KPIs change a lot. Like Chris was saying, like everything from how our projects are delivered to how our performance is being evaluated, adapted to the new normal. But I would say the one shift in work streams that I had as a leader that I didn't have before was really around contingency planning. So I have been talking to some Google managers in Italy and asking them what was happening. And they're like, you know what? Like some people on our team got COVID, or like had to go to a funeral over Zoom, or like one of our leadership team got sick, and we're like, okay. So those are all very morbid, but possibilities here, right? And so how do we set up redundancies and contingencies so that people have a support network, so that, you know, I had a lot of people working on individual siloed projects, and I started pairing them together and cutting some projects so that you always kind of have a link and a person to interact with. We also had like better documentation than we would normally have, because there's a good chance we'll need to pass it off to somebody at some point in time. There's just a lot of volatility that we were planning for that we wouldn't necessarily be doing before.
Right, right. Chris, anything to top up there?
I'll give kudos to Alana. We're sort of partners on some parts of the business, and I got to witness just how she had to make a U-turn on a lot of her plans. And one thing that she and her team did really well was just reach out to all of the stakeholders on her business to understand our needs, because we work in partnership on some initiatives. And her team really did the rounds to listen and learn. And that was something that I did with my partners as well. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, right? And this is around like redefining success. If your plans have to change, you have to understand what you're solving for, and the best way is to just have those uncomfortable discussions. So I was literally in some meetings with executives where their business was doing really well because they were an essential retailer. They didn't really need a lot of Google advertising at the time. So it's really awkward, but the question is, hey, how else can we support you? We're sitting on a ton of data. We have other things that we can add value beyond how we traditionally partner, but it requires some of those uncomfortable conversations to just redefine the goal and what success looks like. And I mentioned earlier, in terms of prioritization, sometimes this disruption is a really great way to leapfrog and get the things done that you had always wanted to do, because suddenly you've got the right tailwinds, right? So in my specific business in retail, the paper flyer, this is a moment where that's probably a lot of retailers are thinking about doing away with the paper flyer. So what does that mean for digital advertising and helping shoppers find their deals online? So that's maybe a space we want to double down on. People are downloading apps to do their shopping, right? A lot of retailers were really slow on building their apps and actually building out a solid app experience. Do we actually go and double down on that? So for every pain point and closed door, think about what was the pet project that was simmering in the background that never had the conditions to thrive that could actually be put to the forefront and where you could 10x the speed.
I would agree with that. I would say that we had permission not to do some things that I had been trying to get rid of for years, and we could do that. And then we had space to innovate, right? So my team actually launched a program with Digital Main Street where we are trying to get 50,000 small businesses online. And so we hired all these university students who now no longer had summer jobs, trained them on digital skills, found 50,000 businesses, and are getting them set up online for free. And that's a great for Google story, great for e-commerce in Canada story. And we just would have never had the time or attention to get that done before. And we launched that in like 4 weeks. So it was pretty exciting to see.
Amazing. And just to call out, I think Chris's recognition of Alana at the beginning there, I think just recognizing the amount of work and effort and pivoting sometimes to accomplish what seemed simpler, right, in March or February. I think just recognizing the efforts everyone is undertaking is very beneficial too for the overall morale. Moving on to, what changes have you incorporated into your leadership approach? So more of a leadership question. And this one, maybe Chris, you can start.
Sure. Some of these themes we've touched on, and again, I'll try to be practical. But number one, vulnerability and empathy. Again, being in touch with the human experience of what we're all going through. So that was forefront. The one that I think is quite practical and the one that I had to learn maybe the hard way, if I were to go back in time, I'd tell myself, give myself this advice, is think twice before sending an email or pinging someone on the team. What we forget is in the day-to-day office experience, we have the human interaction that kind of creates a safety zone for us to send a really direct email or ping, because we can maybe walk down the hall or like look over the cubicle and say, hey, did you see that email about XYZ? Now everyone's alone in their home, and something that's abrupt or a frequency or multiple notes from a peer or a manager or a leader can trigger thoughts of anxiety. And so I've tried to learn how to think twice and be slow and be more choiceful about the communication I send out. So less is more on that front. And then we recently went through a prioritization exercise here. We talk about prioritization being really important, but we literally asked everyone on the team to put down on paper onto one spreadsheet. So everyone's name is on the spreadsheet and everyone's top 5 deliverables were under their name. And that was transparent for every single person to see across the extended team. We've never done anything like that before, but I think it accomplished 2 things. One was real ownership, that people were proud to say, these are the things I'm going to deliver back to the business. I uniquely own them. Other people will contribute and I'll collaborate cross-functionally, but these are like my big 5. And then there's that accountability and people feel really fired up. There was also power for everyone to see everyone else's all on one page and see how all of the each individual laddered up into a bigger team plan and strategy. So I would encourage that as an experiment. If you have that sort of transparency for every person to put their top 5 projects and for the team to review it together in that forum.
Got it. Time flies when you're having fun. I just realized we're coming up really to the end of the session. I do want to get to any questions. If anybody in the session has one, feel free to put it in the chat box. While that's happening, we do have a summary slide of a few of these tips. You can take a screenshot or a photo as well as a follow-up email. So let me quickly pull that up. When I do that, I won't be able to see the screen anymore. So Alana or Chris, if there is a question coming up, let me know. And can you guys see?
We'd love to hear questions at this point. I think we've done enough jabbering without any interaction.
Anything?
While we're waiting for a question, I would plug Dan Pink's book or 9-minute TED Talk instead. Talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose and how people stay motivated at work. I think this became particularly important during COVID. We live in some crazy times and the world is like on fire, like literally. And so sometimes it's hard to stay motivated on your piece of work that you have to do your job. And so giving people a bigger purpose and a mission is helpful to feel like they're contributing something beyond kind of their day-to-day work. So I would plug that TED Talk.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much. I think we are at time. There is an email there if anybody would like to reach out following this session. I flashed it quickly, but it's agn-outreach@google.com. Happy to get in touch with anybody after this session. Once again, do want to thank the ACCE for inviting us to participate. Thank you, Chris and Alana, for taking your time to participate in this chat. I hope you all found it helpful and informative, and have a nice day for everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.